So, hey, it's me, Renee. I'm back. So today I'm here for a book review. I don't really do it that often, but sometimes I feel like, you know what, I want to do a review purely for one book or a few books, and that's what I'm going to do now. So, Kindred by Octavia Butler. So, I had got this book for for my Christmas, for my birthday in July. I'm a bit tired, maybe. For my birthday in June. So I had it actually for a few weeks now. But I thought like for Pokemon, I thought like, you know what? I kinda want to read this for Pokemon. Feel like might fit. And since I kinda end up not focusing on Stamped because I couldn't really focus in it being a non-fiction book and it being an audiobook. So I kinda wanted to have something else that's based around that prompt of white supremacy and stuff. And I suppose this doesn't work perfectly, but it works kinda, I felt like. And yeah, so if in case you didn't know, Kindred, it's a story of Zaina. She gets pulled back in time. Okay, so her present is 1976, so it's like historical for us as well. Well, this came out in 1976, so it's not like her. It's not. It wasn't. It wasn't historical when it was published. But yeah. So her present date 1976, and she gets pulled back in time. In the beginning of this book, she starts being getting pulled back in time till the 1800s, and first she's like confused what's going to happen or what's going on. But very quickly she sees a little boy who seems to be almost drowning. So of course she would just what most people will do. I suppose depends if you're in shock, panic or stuff or not. But like she just throws away a panic of like what's happening to me and then goes into water and saves the kid. But the kid gets the kid to shore and helps him get his breathing back. She the CPR on him. He goes back to life. And then the kid's dad comes to her with a gun aiming at her. Like, what? What? Why aiming a gun at me? I just saved your kid. So that's scary. And at the same time, the kid and everyone, like the kid and the mom and the dad have a weird close. Like, what's going on? And then she becomes dizzy, and then gets pulled back in time to her own time. So she starts to realize she was actually pulled back to the past because right there and then she was like, "What's going on?" But then she realized that must have happened. And then actually, in difference to a lot of time travel stories or fantasy stories in general, where like you have like normal world and a different world. It's very quickly she gets back in time. So it's not like it's back in time and then into present day and another time present day. No, she gets pulled away again. Just a few minutes after really this. But this time it's been a few years, so now it's like 1812, no, 18 like 1815, 1816, so it's a few years after. The same kid is there again. He's grown, as you would after a few years, but again, he's in mortal danger. So she helps him. You don't want people to die. And this time he's in a burning building. She stops the fire, and they start talking. And she realizes like, okay, so you're like this privileged kid who's like white, and you're like privileged and call people Negroes and stuff. And okay, so the thing is, the protagonist in this book is African American. So her being in the past and being pulled into the past when African Americans were still slaves is actually quite surreal and quite dangerous on several levels. Really, you have the level of like she can't really communicate with people because they don't really understand her future ideas and stuff. But at the same time, like they might be taking her for a slave, and it's just dangerous on all levels. And yeah, so like she ends up going back and forth in time lots of times, and she ends up uh, several times rescuing this person who ends up being her words, her ancestor. And yeah, so it's just quite interesting because this ancestor of her is white, and he's the daughter. He's the daughter. He's the son of a plantation owner who owns lots of slaves. So it's just kind of this clash of like her being African American, him being white, and they having like this different cultures and different backgrounds, but like they're trying to communicate and try to work together now and then. And in the beginning, she just gets back all the time, like in a few moments, and then after a while, she gets pulled back in time for a long time, like a few months, a few weeks. So she has to adapt. So she can't really control what's going to happen when she's going to go back to her own time lot. So she has to adapt to the time period. And it's just you get a very interesting, very deep look at being a slave in this time, at being black in this time, and just the brutalities of it. You get a look at like how little right they had and like how they were viewed, and it's so impactful. And you might think like, well, Renee, this book doesn't look that big. It's just it can't be that big. Like what? It's 300 pages, 400 pages, 500 pages. No, it's 287 pages. So it's just under 300 pages. So you might think like, how can a book that's not even 350 pages, 300 pages, pack such an impact? Well, it does. It really does. Octavia E. Butler is just a master of just having every word count and every sentence is perfect and valuable, and, nothing is too much, nothing is unnecessary. Every story, every scene in this book is just perfect and important and valuable, and it's just so good. It's just so good. Yeah, as I said, it's a bit raw and yeah, it's a bit violent here and there, but it's still like on I would say like it's still on edge. Like if you're like me and like kind of scared of like books that are too violent and like too raw and like touches difficult topics and too emotional and too much, you might think like, oh, this might give me nightmares, or this might give me like, am I gonna try to read this book? I would say still read it because it's done, even though, yeah, there's scenes where you have almost rape scenes, you have scenes where slaves are, their ears are cut off, but you also have happy scenes. You have scenes where they're talking, they're enjoying themselves. You have scenes where there's fun and romance, and so it's also joy as well as the emotional, deep stuff. So you have both really. So and yeah, I would just say read this book because it's just so important. It just it makes you think about the world and people and how people change and people don't change, and how backgrounds and culture is so important, and it's so in our backbones, and it's just yeah, it's just a very impactful. How many times can Renee say impactful in one review? Let's see. But yeah, and it's very emotional, and it's just and like it's one of those books. I'll just also give you like a little idea. So the book doesn't really start on the first page. No, the book starts with one, two, three pages of praises from different reviewers and newspapers. So yeah, 3 pages stacked of like saying this book changed my life. This book is important. Everyone needs to read this book. When you have a few of those, it's fine. Every book can have that. When you have two, okay, this book is something to look to. When you have three, then it's nothing that's then you're not kidding around. This book is for real. You should read this. It's no one's kidding around. This is just so important and impactful, and just yeah, read it. And it's also kind of weird how even though this came out in 1976, 1979, and of course they can't really talk then about like what's happening now, but it still feels so current because of how there's still a lot of social issues in the States, well, in the world as well. Oftentimes people say like this all these social issues in the States, and yeah, that's true. But you do have social issues with the African uh, and African Norwegians, African British people, like all the different places Africans have immigrated to. There's also always been clashes where people like they get discriminated against, they get no jobs, they get harassed. It's not really that like it's unique to the States. Stuff happen here in Norway as well. Stuff happens in the States, in UK as well. It happens everywhere really. So it's not really a States issue really. Sometimes you feel like maybe it is a States issue. I think it might feel like that in a way because like you hear often about like George Floyd, you hear about Breonna Taylor, you hear about um, you hear about all these people in the States being killed. They're just like walking around, they're driving, etc., etc. They're killed for being themselves, or slight miscommunications, but yeah, for being themselves. And well, yeah, in Norway, you don't. Well, I suppose yeah, some people have been killed in Norway as well. You have three instances of that. So yeah, some of them. You have one in 2000. He was called Benjamin. Can't remember his last name, but yeah, Benjamin. And then there was one in 2007 or something. And I think maybe this one after that as well. But yeah, three people in like 20 years. That's nothing compared to what's happening in the States. But putting that aside, it doesn't mean that African Norwegians have it easy. They have it easier because they're not killed, but they actually also get discriminated. They get asked like, "Oh, where you from? Oh, you can do that. Oh, do you have a permission to be here?" So it's not like it's yeah solely an American issue. And yeah, I just kind of want to give my 2 cents on that. It's happening all over the world, really. And yeah, just Kindred, little tangent, but yeah, Kindred. It's just a very, very great book. Highly, highly recommend it. I would say though, because I've seen a lot of people who describe this as a science fiction. I suppose you could also say it's fantasy. I would say maybe it's more science fiction because no, sorry, more fantasy because the way she travels back in time, it's not a machine and it's not part of her blood. It's just like it just happens. So like in my mind that makes it more fantasy. Like it would be if it would be science fiction, I felt like there would be like crazy scientists who make a time travel machine like Doc Brown in Back to the Future, or like you have Star Trek thing where you made a time machine. Here there's no time machine, so you just gets pulled back in time. And I would say because of that, I would call this more fantasy, but I suppose nitpicking really. But also in that way, we don't never really get that much. We never really get that much information on like why this happened to these two people. Like okay, so we discover that they're related. One is related to the other. Well, they're both related. Like one of them is the ancestor to the other. So you understand. Okay, so there's a link there. But like this ancestor, he has lots. I mean, it's not like Dana has no other family. Like she has a grandmother and mom and all those people's like why is she taken to pass and not why it didn't happen to her mom or grandma, like why did it happen to her, we don't really know. And why Rufus managed to do it, like he can actually also see, like he can hear and see Dana before she comes to his time, like why does that happen, we don't know. Kind of, I suppose I'm usually not really one that needs lots of explanations in fantasy books. I like when there's a little but not much. But yeah, I feel this one I kind of felt like I wanted a bit more really. Other than that, I love the characters. Yeah, also just a little information, uh, just a little side bits. Both the protagonists actually in this one are writers, and so you have like a bit of a some scenes here and there we talk about how they love books and they both have been trying to write for years, and it's just this like, love books is just shown out through, it's just shining through the book, and it's just I love that aspect of it. It's just so fun. And yeah, I really like the characters in this one. I really like the both present day and day. I suppose you don't really get that much present day really, but that's how it's built up really, and I really like it. I really like how the story, look, sorry. I feel like if somehow if you're studying this book and then you have to stop it at like page 50 because stuff happens and you can't take it back up, well, you will still like have a good little story. I feel like in a way it sounds weird, but I feel like in a way this could actually be read in like small doses. Like this could be read as actually as like short stories, because I said she goes back to past several times, but she comes back and there's always like resolutions. Like let's say like and maybe like in a way you could read one chapter, put it away for like many weeks, read one chapter, put it away. It's not a book that you need to read in one go, although that's what happened to me. I started reading the forward actually on Saturday, and then I really enjoyed it. And even though like this was Saturday, it was like 11:30 in the evening. I read the forward for like I'll just start the book, start the first chapter, and then poof! Suddenly it's 4 o'clock in the morning, and I haven't slept. I just read all night. Yeah, I was a bit tired yesterday and on Sunday. Did I regret it though? No, I didn't, because this book is just so good, so good. It's raw and emotional, yeah, but it's just one of those books. I kind of feel like everyone needs to read this. Everyone, it's just so amazing. It's amazing. As I've said it a lot now, but yeah, it's amazing in the world building and the characters and the conflict and everything. Really, is there anything I would change with this one? I can't really say a word except like a bit more explanation with the like how the fantasy elements happen and why and stuff. But like other than that, I loved it. I loved it. Maybe a bit more of like there's a prologue and epilogue. I kind of want maybe a bit more epilogue. But other than that, no. I just love this book. I loved it so much. So good. So if you're not clicking off this review now, while finishing it and then ordering this book, I have no idea how you can do that. You should definitely do that. Buy, or I suppose also borrow it from the library. This book. It's just so, so good. I have no more words for how good is this. Oh, good. How many words can Renee say impactful, and good in one video? Who knows? You can probably stop it and check sometimes. I suppose I could like check myself while I'm filming it, while I'm posting it. Probably won't, but yeah. So this book, just an amazing read all over, and read it. Everyone should definitely read it. So yeah, that's been my Renee. That's been my review for Kindred by Octavia Butler, and I hope you might be interested to check it out now, or at least check out more about this book, like other reviewers, if they're more eloquent with the words talk about this book. And if you don't want to take my word for it, read the forward, read Diaz book review, read Rick Riordan loves this book. I think more or less everyone who read this loved it. Pretty sure it has to be. Well, at least a lot of people got something out of it, and a lot no well-known people have read it. So you probably will find some reviews available from other people by this book, from this book, and yeah, yeah. Let's talk to you later. Bye.